it's official, and no one can ever contest this, that we were the ultimate death metal band, because Matt was embalming deceased and I was burying deceased every day that we recorded and composed all of the Antichrist Imperium albums. And they said, we know this other guitarist, but he's kind of crazy. We're not too sure about him. Jason came over and I just instantly connected with him.
I wanted to talk to you about your time in My Dying Bride.
Voices kind of ran out of steam, and the last album that we did, although I like it, it's just got, I didn't feel it had anything to do with me. It was literally just, I don't think there's anything more ugly, caveman, knuckle dragging, brutal, mindless death metal, and just twatting everything at the same time as fast as you can. It's just like, have this and fuck off. If I were in the room, I probably would punch you in the face.
Lethal, you're here. Welcome back to The False Face, where I'm joined this week by David Gray of Akercocke. I'd like to devote just a little bit of time at the start of this week's show to explain some changes that I'm going to be making around here. One of which is that I am awful at these introductions. And if you're one of the eagle-eyed 3 that caught the version of this video that went up this morning before I pulled it, you will have noticed that there was a different introduction, and that has been scrapped because it was just dreadful. And I have to level with you, I don't know what journalistic standard I'm holding myself to, but I feel like these introductions should be snappy, catch people's attention, all of the stuff that I'm not doing right now. And what I will say to you is this: if you're the kind of person that skips the introductions on podcasts, feel free to do so. There are chapter stamps that you can avail of. I would encourage you not to, because I want to take a couple of minutes of your time to plug some stuff, to talk about recent developments in the world of rock and metal. Also, I've got a gag coming up about an empty cup of coffee. You might want to stick around for that. But first things first, this week's episode, like I say, David Gray, second guy from ACT that's been on the show, and we talk about everything. We cover Voices, Antichrist Imperium, Anaal Nathrakh. We talk some of our favourite drummers. Really, this episode, I mean, everyone's welcome, viewers, listeners of all kinds, but this episode is for the drummers. We go into details about some of the issues that David had with the tom sounds on a couple of albums that he's played on, why the kit sounds so organic on Frightened by Voices. We talk about Mike Smith. We talk about Pete Sandoval. We talk about the almighty Rick Miah, who I will be talking about again in a couple of minutes, but you might notice what I'm wearing. This is a great chat. We talk about how we met Jason Mendonca of Akercocke, who also has appeared on the channel a couple of months ago. It's a cheap plug, but hey, it's my show, so I can say that. We talk about all kinds of stuff. Comic books, Dave Gibbons, David Lloyd, Jim Lee, the works. It's a really, really enjoyable conversation, I think, anyway. David's going to be back soon as well. We're going to do another one of those commentary things. If you saw my most recent video, that was the commentary chat that I put up with Nick Barker from Cradle of Filth, talking about the Vampire EP from 1996 that's gone down a storm. And if you haven't checked it out yet, take a look. But yeah, so here we are. New format, false face intro. Not worrying about being quick. Not worrying about being succinct, because fuck it, my videos are 3-4 hours long. I can't be succinct. I'm not capable of doing it. And I just wanted to spend a bit more time, I suppose, with you. I mean, you're here already, so I'm allowed to presume maybe you don't mind spending some time with me, and it's a stone cold gas to have you. Catchphrase. But what can I say? I'm here surrounded by stuff, thinking about the news this week, and the most important thing that has happened in terms of the world of rock and metal for me this week is the announcement of... I'll risk showing my tum-tum off on the internet. Can that be seen? Towards the Sinister, which is the newly announced project by Rick Miah, friend of the show, second ever episode, check that one out. His only interview on the internet so far. Rick Miah and Adrian Jackson, who is also back from a period of musical obscurity. Mr. Calvin Robertshaw and Mr. Aaron Stainthorpe have reunited to play music from the first 4 full-length My Dying Bride albums, plus all of those EPs. I mean, just wait there a second. So this is the vinyl reissue of Towards the Sinister. That's nice. That artwork's by David McKean, who did the cover for Batman Arkham Asylum. I don't know if you know this, nice piece of trivia, but that's actually a detail from an unused piece that he did for Arkham Asylum. So technically a little bit of copyright infringement there. But then I'm wearing a homemade pink bootleg Towards the Sinister jumper, so I can't talk about copyright infringement. What else are the lads going to be playing stuff from? God Is Alone, first ever 7-inch. We've also got the Bitterness and the Bereavement flexi that was released by Woz back in the day there as well. What else have we got here? Symphoner and Furnace at Gray of Imperium. That's right. I tried to get away with saying that. How many copies of Thrashing Naked Limbs do you need? 2? I've got 2. I Am the Bloody Earth. Plus, of course, stuff from As the Flower Withers, Trun Loose the Swans, The Angel in the Dark River, Like Gods of the Sun. This is the most important musical announcement that has been made, I think, in my lifetime as a music fan. As someone who, several months ago when I decided that I wanted to start, podcasting, recording, connecting with musicians that I admired and putting it out on the internet, reached out to Rick Miah, not knowing where he was, if he still was, and just asked him if he'd be interested in having a chat. And he wasn't interested in having a chat, and I turned him around on that. And we put something up on the internet, and, we're good buds now, and now we have this amazing news. So here's a guy who went from maybe not being aware of how much his playing meant to people like me, to then seeing the comments on our video and everyone's saying, I feel the same way. And now everyone all over the internet is feeling the same way, because Rick fucking Miah is back playing drums on My Dying Bride songs. Adrian Jackson is back playing bass on My Dying Bride songs. Calvin Robertshaw is back playing guitar on My Dying Bride songs. And Aaron Stainthorpe is back singing his songs. It's going to be amazing. They're booked for a whole bunch of shows next year. Some of the details of those are out already, some of them aren't, but follow Towards the Sinister on social media and you'll be as up to date as the rest of us. And whenever the official merch drops, no more pink bootlegs. What else have we got to talk about this week? Obviously Jennifer Finch's passing was really, really fucking shitty, and I've been spending an awful lot of time watching old L7 videos and listening to albums as a result. Another podcasting friend, part of the metal podcast scene, Rex Ruger of Podscum, had a great chat with Jennifer a couple of months ago. I'll get that linked down below in the description. Obviously not long before she passed away, but I would send you that direction, because great guy, great show. Get subscribed over there as well. And great woman, brilliant. Just like, what was so sad about it was that it was announced that she was unwell, and that there was a campaign that was launched for fundraising, and then she passed away, and the announcement of the campaign sort of suggests there's a hope maybe she'll get better, and obviously the pouring of love from the fans, and it just didn't work out in this case, and it's super super sad. So yeah, but what else have I been planning to do in these possibly longer introductions? First of all, I want to announce the format of the show, or the schedule of the show, has been weekly since I think I spoke with Dan Forden of Mortal Kombat back a few months ago, and it has worked out that way, and it's nice, and it's been a lot of work, and I work full time, so this is a complete hobby for me. I don't know necessarily that the show is going to be weekly forever. I just thought it was worth actually addressing that on camera. Also because what I was about to say was CD of the week, and it might not be of the week, but it is of the episode. In terms of upcoming guests, I'll be mentioning this in a little while whenever I plug his charity fundraiser as well. Paul Ryan, who is one of the founding members of Cradle of Filth, is going to be joining me in a couple of weeks. Adrian Erlandson, another Cradle of Filth member, is also scheduled in. I've been meaning to talk for Adrian for months, but, dude plays drums abroad a lot, so it's been hard to get that nailed down. I'll also be talking to Sam Loynes from Akercocke, Voices, Antichrist Imperium, Anaal Nathrakh, Shrines. Busy guy, but there's some of the things that if you stick around will be coming up. But yeah, let's do this. CD of the week. What are we going for? We'll pick something at random. It's not really random, I've already thought about it. What have we got here? Amongst the many copies of Roots by Sepultura. How many copies of Roots do we have here? Roots Bloody Roots single, Radhamahata single, Roots. That's the 2017 reissue of Roots. That's not what we're looking for. Radamahata singles. The original 1996 Digipack with Chaos BC, Symptom of the Universe. This is what I'm looking for, is this Roots promo. Alright. I'm looking at my other screen to see if that's actually showing up. Yeah. Man, you can tell I don't have like professional lighting and stuff. So the reason I'm showing you this is because the Roots is different. You can see there, that's green, that's see-through. Yeah, but also the track listing is different. Spit is track 3 on here. Can we see that again? Paul, sort your lighting out. Oh man, the CD's gonna fall. This is awful. Why did he decide to do this? Yeah, I don't think I can make. Can I make that work? Yeah, get a look at that. Check that out. Different track list. So what have we got? Roots Bloody Roots Attitude Spit is track 3. Cutthroat is moved to 6. There's a track on here called Leaf, which isn't actually called Leaf. That was which one is that? It's not. It's Sorry. So Leaf is going to be Jasco under a different name. But anyway, I like stuff. There's some stuff. More to come. Get subscribed. I'm going to do now a completely natural and honest cut to some of the pre-recorded promotion stuff, including my friend James's book, Mental Health for Metalheads, which is an important resource for any of us suffering with mental health issues. I've been there. You've probably been there. You probably know someone who's been there. It sucks. Get a copy of the book. I'm also promoting Barker's Blast Fest, which is a fundraiser that's raising funds for Nicholas Barker's GoFundMe campaign until Nick can get back on his feet. And like I mentioned previously, Paul Ryan of Cradle of Filth is part of the heavy metal truants, and he's doing a fundraising cycle from London to Donington. No, not Donington, Derbyshire, for Bloodstock in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to cut to the more detailed version of that right now, and I will see you after these messages. As always, friends, the False Face is presented in association with Mental Health for Metalheads, which looks like this. Beautiful hand-painted cover art by Ed Repke. The link to buy the book is in the description below. You'll also get interior art from John Cowan, aka 1024, and most recently of Murrow. And the book has over 666 things that you can practice to try and improve your mental well-being, and it comes thoroughly and forcefully endorsed. Grab it. The show is also proudly presented in association with Barker's Blast Fest, an all-day death metal extravaganza taking place in October in Manchester to raise money for Nick Barker's GoFundMe campaign. More details about Blastfest are available if you follow the links that you can see on screen. I've just one last bit of promo that I want to share with you. Founding Cradle of Filth guitarist Paul Ryan is taking part in the annual Heavy Metal Truants fundraiser cycle, which this year is running the 3-day ride from London to Bloodstock in Derbyshire. The Truants Foundation was established by Alexander Milas and Rod Smallwood in 2013 and has raised over £1.5 million for the Teenage Cancer Trust, Nordoff and Robbins Music Therapy, Childline and Save the Children. Paul's donation page is linked in the video description, and keep your eyes peeled in the near future for a chat with Mr. Ryan himself here in the False Face. Donate a couple of quid, or look, if you've spent as much time as I have watching Iron Maiden documentaries, you know one thing for certain: you don't want Rod Smallwood in your case. A couple of quid, couple of £100, whatever you can. Keep Rod sweet. It's all for a good cause. And look, if you're in the London area and you're heading up to Bloodstock in a couple of weeks, why not join up with the Truants yourself? That's me back. If you're still here, thanks. I won't have begrudged you if you've skipped ahead, but also I won't know that you've done that, and you won't know that I've not begrudged you it because you've skipped this. So, yeah, don't worry about it, I guess. But also, fuck you slightly. I love you if you're here. Thank you for spending your time with the False Face. Catchphrase instance number 2. It's a stone cold gas to have you. If you like the videos, tell YouTube. It looks like this. Give them one of these. Get subscribed. Some of the guys that have been on the channel: Nicholas Barker, Jason Mendonca, Rick Miah. Rick Miah's back playing the drums. David Gray, obviously you're about to watch it. Dan Forden, Carl Sanders of Nile, Shane Embry, God of Grind, a whole bunch of cats. Jim Johnson, the wrestling composer, was on recently. A lot of folks have been watching that one. If you're here because of that, hi, this is what the show is normally like. But yeah, tell a friend, tell me, let's have a chat in the comments. Are you a fan of David? What's your favourite of David's works? What's your least favourite of David's works? And don't say that. Only positivity allowed here in the False Face. But yeah, listen, I've waffled long enough. I think I've got all my catchphrases. I've said everything I wanted to say. I don't think I've had to make any edits. And if you're still here, like, subscribe, love yous. I'll see you next time. I wanted to start off by asking you perhaps something silly, but I noticed I was mindlessly browsing on Instagram the other day, as you do, and I was looking at this custom bind that someone had made of Spawn comics, and then I noticed that you had liked it, and I thought, David likes Spawn, and then I thought about your artwork, and I was like, of course he's into comics. So that was the first thing I wanted to check with you is, A, are you a fan of Spawn? And B, what kind of comic stuff you're into?
I love Image comics, the original Image comics. I don't know how much you know about.
I know quite a bit about that. Yeah, I've seen the film.
Brilliant.
I've read books, all that stuff. Yeah, so
right. So you know that like in the 90s with the big comic book boom, there were Marvel, DC, and there was also Image, which was a company created by artists. So they get to own all of their royalties, they get to own all of their property, and they take the money directly.
Yeah.
And it was a time of crazy superheroes and whatever. And I'm a big fan of Marvel and DC, but Image as well. But really the early Image, and my favorite would be Jim Lee's Wildcats. I mean, that's just I love that, and the cartoon series as well, which is just brilliant.
To my shame, I never got round to Wildcats, and I don't know why that is. I think I read Spawn first of all when I was far too young to be reading it in the 90s, and then eventually ended up reading pretty much the whole thing, and it soured me. I mean, it's hard to stick with Spawn. It requires a certain amount of loyalty, and there's a lot.
Did you watch the series?
Yeah, I did. The series is brilliant.
Yeah, the series is great. I mean, the movie's okay. I mean, I'm looking forward to the Jamie Foxx version, the newer one. Brilliant.
So you'd said to me the other day that you watched the conversation I had with Jason, and one of the things that I said to Jason in that was that I said, let's have a chat about hell. And he laughed, and I said that I'd seen, great films about hell and shit films about hell. And specifically when I said shit films about hell, I had just watched the Spawn movie a couple of days previously with my older brother, and I felt really bad because we really, really struggled through that movie because of John Leguizamo's performance as the clown in it, which just goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And also the effects on the the devil with the mouth that just moves like that, but he's like speaking fully formed words. And I struggled with it, but I would like someday I would like there to be a great mass media Spawn thing for everybody to enjoy, because I feel so personally attached to that. Do you know what I mean? And that goes back to nostalgia. But what about Savage Dragon? David, were you a fan of
that? Yeah. And they did a cartoon series of that as well, didn't they, actually? My favourite Savage Dragon was with Jason Pearson drawing, who is like probably, if not my favourite comic book artist, definitely in my top 5. He's so underrated. And he was one of these characters that when I discovered that he was on Instagram, he used to post, and I think sometimes he was seen as a bit of a controversial figure, very sort of outspoken, perhaps, I'm not saying I'm right, but perhaps came over sometimes a little bit like, perhaps a bit ungrateful that he wasn't in the same kind of Adam Hughes league, and didn't, well, he definitely didn't get as much recognition as he deserved. And he just died a couple of years ago. And he had Body Bags, which was, I think, one of my favorite Image comics.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite comics that he illustrated. He was working on some new material, and we're never going to see it because he died. He was doing a Kickstarter, and I mean, I'm not a Kickstarter kind of person, but I actually did think I'm going to have to, find some money for Jason Pearson's project, because it baffles me that people don't rate him higher. That he never really achieved a higher sort of status. I mean, perhaps you don't know, but I've drawn superhero comic books for an independent
yes,
publisher.
I remember reading about that. Yeah,
and really took it seriously in the sense that I tried to do it as well as I could, and as a comic book fan, was really really pleased and sort of energized by working on my own kind of project. So it's you have to put in the hours for those kind of things to produce a book, and I've got a lot of respect for a lot of those guys.
What was the challenge? How did you find the challenge, David, of going from creating imagery, I suppose, largely that was used either for album covers or for inlays for albums and that sort of thing, to the actual storytelling element of sequential art? How did you find that? Because I think a lot of people probably presume that's maybe a little easier than it is.
Well, I'm going to just out-nerd you for a couple of minutes now, but I'll be very brief.
Okay.
But when I was doing my A-levels, I went to the London Cartoon Centre, which was a small school in West London that was designed to teach individuals that were interested or perhaps had a modicum of talent how to communicate in the world of graphic novels, comic books and whatever. And you would so while I was doing my A-levels for art and graphics, I would also spend 3 days commuting to go to Kensal Green to go and learn about how you color comic books, how you tell sequential art, whatever.
Yeah.
Stuff like Hergé and with Tintin and like Asterix.
Yeah.
Albert Uderzo, who I still absolutely love. Right up to the kind of the contemporary stuff like Justice League and Love and Rockets.
Yeah.
Jamie Hernandez, love that. And all the typical superhero stuff. Watchmen had just come out by then as well.
Yes.
And just blown my mind completely. And I've always had that relationship with Watchmen because it was so powerful when it came out, and I was at a really impressionable kind of age and really loved comic books. And it was almost like, why aren't there more comic books like this? I can't believe how it's operating on so many different levels.
Yeah.
And it's so sort of cerebral, but also using the language of comic books, which we've all kind of grown up with. Dave Gibbons, of course, who's a genius. So yeah, the short answer is I did have a few lessons from a few really decent tutors at the time. And who strolled in one afternoon looking for one of the tutors was David Lloyd, V for Vendetta.
Yes, yeah.
And and so I was quite young, and this kind of guy with a comb over, the leather elbows on the tweed and whatever, kind of strolled in, maybe with like a roll up or something. He's like, yeah, what's going on here, guys? Where's Eve?
Yeah.
And he walked out the door, and somebody said, "Do you know who that is?"
Yeah.
It's like, I've got no idea. Someone's granddad? I don't know. And it's like, that's David Lloyd.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. Respect to David Lloyd.
He seems like a cool guy. His introduction for the paperback of V for Vendetta, where he says this is a book for people that don't switch off the news, it's always stuck with me, that line, and I was reading I know you're a big sci-fi fan as well, David. I don't know if you've seen that Hammer have been reissuing a lot of their old films in these really big fancy lavish box sets with tons of extras and all of that stuff, and they've been reprinting the graphic novel adaptations of some of their old stories, and I was flicking through the one that came with the Quatermass Experiment. I was like, this artwork looks really familiar, and it went back to the front. Sure enough, David Lloyd had done it before he was David Lloyd, you know what I mean? But even then you could see the style there was very distinctive. So I was thinking about getting a page from Watchmen printed onto a t-shirt at one stage, and I've still got the file, it's ready to go. I just never got around to doing it, but the 9-panel thing is just...
I was just going to say, one of the frames that stuck with me, which would be fantastic for a t-shirt, now you mention it, was the one, when the comedian's in Vietnam and he's just reveling in the murder, and it's like, everyone else is just kind of doing their job, they're there, no one's having a good time, it's awful. And the comedian, he's kind of operating on a kind of hysterical level, isn't he? He's just so giddy
Yeah.
giddy with the madness and the murder. And there's a one frame of him where they're kind of close into his face, and I think he's got a cigar, and there's kind of the smoke of the napalm,
Yeah.
and the madness around him. And he's just saying, like, the comedian understands why he's there, and he understands, the murder and the brutality of nature and humanity, and he really doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's not that he doesn't understand it. It's not that he doesn't, understand the futility and the senselessness of all of this. He does understand it. He's not interested,
Yeah.
And classic.
It's
Absolutely. I mean, the comedian is the ultimate anti-hero.
Yeah, it's really let's put it into a single sentence. Watchmen is really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. What do you think of the film? Did you enjoy it?
I love the movie, the absolute version, the 4-hour one.
Yeah,
where they put
the comic with
animated-
the comic strip. Yeah, that stuff. Yeah, it's good.
That's the one. Did you see the recent animated?
No. Oh no, I didn't see that. No. What was that like?
Yeah, I was hoping it would be really sort of exhaustive, and they would really bring everything, because it's in 2 halves, so it's like 2 movies.
Mm-hmm.
I was really hoping that they would really delve into all those corners that the movie didn't because of time, but they don't. And there are still omissions. Can't remember off the top of my head what things leapt out, but it's a nice looking animated movie, but it makes you wonder why, unless they were going to really,
if they're having another go at it, like,
if they're really going to do it, reinstate everything that was missing, to really give us the full Monty. But it's worth a watch.
What about the HBO series? Did you see that?
I did.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it when it came out because I felt that there was something treacherous about letting other people, play with those toys. Like what? But when we did eventually settle down and watch it, and Dr. Manhattan turned up, and Adrian Veidt was played by Jeremy Irons.
Yeah.
And it all kind of came together for me, and I thought, you know what, this is actually pretty decent. And the historical aspects of
all of the Tulsa massacre,
and the storytelling that was kind of dissected and bled through and whatever, I felt that it definitely was created by people that loved the source material.
I agree.
So although I don't think it was like 100% score all the way through, I think it's a really worthwhile series, and I really enjoyed it. Did you see that there was a comic book sequel as well?
I didn't read any of that, but for the exact same reason that you said. I thought I don't want other people playing with these toys, but particularly in that medium. There was a bunch of stuff they did before Watchmen, and then there was the Doomsday Clock.
Doomsday Clock, but you see, that was drawn by Gary Frank, and
I like Gary Frank a lot. Like,
I like Gary Frank, and he's he did some Dark Angel, Hell's Angel, which was British Marvel stuff.
Yeah,
and I love that. So I've always had time for him.
Yeah,
and I think he did a terrific job. I really do. Jeff Johns, I think, is great as well. And again, I don't think Doomsday Clock scores 100%, but I do think there's some really decent stuff in there, actually. Yeah.
Is that the one that they did, David, where they tried to bring it into the wider DC?
Yeah.
Because I find sometimes with those efforts, I got lost a few years ago after the second or third, line-wide reboot in a particular period of time, and I just thought it's just very hard to commit to DC because they keep doing that,
They're so fond of a team up, aren't they? DC, it's like they just can't leave it alone,
Yeah. If you ever get back to the stage where there was one Batman book and it was just about Batman and he was doing Batman things on his own, and they didn't then have a separate book where he was really chummy with everybody, but that they were supposed to exist in the same timeline. That's the issue, is that the conflict that each of the series, I think, have with each other. Whereas in the 70s they did something similar, but it seemed to work. And Bob Haney was writing these stories for what was it called, The Brave and the Bold, with when Jim Aparo was drawing it, and those stories are nuts. And Batman's really friendly in them, and he calls everybody chum, and every issue is like a different pal that he's with. But then in the main line, I think Danny O'Neill was probably writing around about the same time. He's on his own, and it's darker, and it works. But now I don't think that they quite know how to balance that, you know. So yeah, that's a lot of comics talk for what is ostensibly supposed to be, although I'm trying to break out of this mold that I've created for myself of being a metal podcast. But yeah,
we're here because we like heavy metal.
This is true. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about some heavy metal. I'll throw in a random question here. Your answer can be as short or as long as you like. World Downfall or From Beyond?
Has to be World Downfall.
It does have to be World Downfall. Would you care to elaborate?
Terrorizer, for me, the best Pete Sandoval was ever.
I agree.
I will be possibly controversial and say he's never been as good since. I feel that was his peak. I feel that he was so hungry. You know, he was so just absolutely like ebullient. You know, that there's something so electric about the entire performance. And then for the record, the first two Morbid Angel albums, I'm done after that.
Oh, really? Okay.
So when I would listen to something after that, Domination or something, it just doesn't have the imagination. It doesn't have the intention. Doesn't have the joy. You know, the way that he kind of moves around the kit, the absolute kind of just, I don't know. It's kind of, it's so luminous. You know, when he's just absolutely. The drums are playing him as much as he's playing the drums, and he just felt like it was a really like kind of hungry, enthusiastic performance of someone that was absolutely, you know, teeming with talent and brimming with enthusiasm and wanted to prove himself.
Yeah.
And after that, I think it just changed his style, changed his intention, and for me, I just never recaptured that same feeling, really.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Even Covenant, David, you're not so hot on Covenant.
It doesn't have the same electricity, you know, that kind of excitement, that kind of I don't know. No, it seems very flat to me. A lot of those performances. You know, I've kind of drift in and out of listening to some of those other albums, and nothing gets anywhere near Chapel of Ghouls or, you know, that kind of early stuff where he just seemed to just be so eager to prove himself, you know, and just show us just how talented he is. And then after that, just kind of just relaxed into it and just allowed the, you know, like, I've got nothing more to prove. I'm just here. I'm just, you know, with my bros, and we're just playing some stuff and whatever.
Yeah,
which is great. But
this is going to be controversial, I think. Yeah, but let's have honesty. You know, I have a very specific life memory. I was listening to you guys' cover of Chapel of Ghouls once. It was a bonus for Antichrist, if I'm not mistaken. And I was hit by somebody cycling a bike because stupidly I was walking along a road, the side of a road in the dark, and I just remember being thrown to the floor. And so that song, your version of that, is indelibly linked in my mind to crippling agony, really. But yeah, good, excellent answer. David, the drums. How did you get started with that? Or if you want to skip ahead to how you were getting on when you were maybe doing it for a year, or start the story wherever you like. But you're a really good drummer, and I like your drum playing an awful lot. So let's talk about that for a while.
Yeah, I was very young, and the music of the time when I was young, I still think now, if you listen back to it, was you know, like an embarrassment of riches. I was listening to Souxsie and the Banshees with Budgie. And Spellbound was the song that was on TV, and so I bought that record. And I just thought the drums were absolutely amazing. I didn't understand how you would begin to put those together, that blew my mind. And Adam and the Ants, listening to them, they had two drummers. So they would have complementary kind of syncopated patterns where one guy would be doing something, and very much tom heavy.
Yeah.
Not sort of subtle. There's nothing subtle about it. It was just two guys twatting the toms and, making rhythms and whatever. And then Gary Newman. There was an album, The Pleasure Principle, that came out. And the first track is an instrumental. And he goes from playing like a 16 kind of like pretty tight, but very groovy 16 beat. And then for the bridges, kind of just breaks it down into a 4, and then just kind of slips in this kind of cheeky kind of feel, and like it impressed me so much. I just noticed drums so much. So that would have been 1980, 1981. So I was like 8 years old or something. So I was very young, and my dad just thought, instead of me hitting sofas and pots and pans, whatever, he just said, "We're just going to buy you a drum kit." But he did actually buy me a drum kit. It wasn't a toy drum kit or anything.
Yeah.
And then that was it. It kind of that would be around for a couple of years before I really put it together and started to be serious about it. My brother plays guitar.
Yeah.
And he is older than me, and he had some friends that were eager to be like a rockabilly band.
Okay.
So he had this bass player and another guy that wanted to play the drums. So we would set my drums up for him to play. And rockabilly music's very simple, very straightforward beats. There's nothing technical or diverting about it. It's always very straightforward. So it was very easy for me to learn to play that as well. So I used to kind of just jam with my brother. We had my drums in my bedroom, and that's what we would do. And then he got into playing pop music. So I played learnt to kind of play more of those beats and things. Then I kind of discovered Level 42. I don't know if you're aware of them. They're like
the Chinese
jazz sonic band from the Isle of Wight.
Mark Almond, was it?
No, that's the fella from Soft Cell.
Who was the bass
Mark
player?
King.
Mark King. Thank you. Yes.
So, the drummer of Level 42, still one of my favourite drummers of all time. Absolutely fantastic. Phil Gould is a genius, and that kind of set me off on a bit of a different tangent, and I was into Iron Maiden and stuff as well at the same time, and always found Clive Burr a little bit more energetic and a bit more interesting. Nico McBrain's great, of course, he's fantastic, but I was more impressed with Nico McBrain's drums. He had this Sonor performer or designer, I'm not sure, kit, and he had 7, 8, 9, 10-inch toms, just kind of had everything you could possibly manufacture.
Yeah,
I loved his drums, but I preferred Clive Burr's playing, which was a bit more intense. I feel that he was used to cut in really fast 16 beats when Steve Harris was kind of just soloing the bass or whatever, and there was more of a punk kind of imminence to Clive Burr that I just thought was a bit more exciting. Nico McBrain sounded a little bit more like he might smoke weed or something.
Yeah,
he just had that looser vibe.
It is loose. There's a looseness to it, with complete admiration and all of the appropriate things. That's not a criticism, but there is something about it. It took me a long time to get into Nico at first, because I thought it doesn't sound like he's doing that right, and eventually I kind of realized maybe he's not doing it right, and that's what it is, and that the concept of right get rid of that. You're a drummer. You don't need to be thinking about things being right. Were you paying attention to what Lol Tolhurst was doing in The Cure as well, David? Were you listening to The Cure?
No, I'll be
No.
honest. No, I wasn't. I like some of the classic Cure stuff. I like Disintegration, the album, and some of those other things. But they weren't a band that influenced me. No.
No, it's okay.
So that was really when I moved my drums from my bedroom. My dad, he built like a rehearsal space for us at the bottom of our garden.
Okay, yeah.
Because my brother played music as well. So it was really an environment for us to play where we weren't upsetting anyone and, being too loud. And it was 1987 when it was fit for playing, with a roof, and it was soundproofed and everything. And that was when I met Jason. And the very first time that I ever played in our rehearsal space, which was then to become Goat of Mendes Studios, for those that know.
Okay, yeah.
That was my experience. Jason and I met through a friend who advertised in Guitarist magazine. So this is properly old school. There's no internet now. This is Guitarist magazine had classifieds, and one of them said thrash metal guitarist and bass player into Anthrax, Metallica, Slayer, etc. Is looking for drummer and other musicians to jam with, and they were in West Drayton, which was quite close to where I was, and we played a couple of times, and then they said, we know this other guitarist, but he's kind of crazy. We're not too sure about him. I said, okay, well, why is he crazy? And they said, we don't know. He's just he's a bit wild. He's really into like Possessed and Slayer and Bathory and whatever. And don't really know.
Yeah.
And I said, you've got to bring him over. This guy sounds like we need to play with him. And Jason came over, and I just instantly connected with him. And I think that was the last time that we got together with the other guys, who were lovely guys, but they really were just into more Metallica, Megadeth, kind of more metal based rather than thrash based. Whereas when Jason and I met, he said, do you know Pleasure to Kill? It's like, fuck yeah, I know Pleasure to Kill. And he's like, this is what we should be doing. We should be writing music like that.
Yeah.
We couldn't play like that, but we were ambitious.
You had something to aim for, yeah.
So we wrote. We couldn't find anyone else to play with. It was just we kept meeting bass players, kept meeting other people to jam with, but we never really forged any connection. So we used to do 4-track recordings. We had this audio tape setup of a 4-track, and we wrote our first song, The Lords of Mayhem. And we just thought, we'll just record it ourselves. We don't need a band, Of course, this would be standard for black metal, in a few years.
Yeah, of course.
But in 1988, it was pretty original. We would listen to Equimanthorn, and I don't know, it's the Reap of Evil, and then we would go to the studio, and then we'd just try and play as fast as we could, try to channel the power of Bathory and maybe a little bit of that kind of creator power, Possessed kind of power,
Yeah.
And the songs are really shit, but it was good to record all of these things and be able to sort of analyze them afterwards, because we were so enthusiastic and so excited to be creating music together.
Yeah.
So
what age would you guys have been at that stage when you met and started this?
Jason's just a little bit older than me, so I think that I would have been like 14, 15.
Yeah.
So he was like 15, 16. So yeah.
Yeah. And you've got that Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee, lifelong friendship and still making music together, and with
He's
the
my
the
oldest
advance
best
of
mate.
age. Yeah, I love to hear that. It's just yeah, it's beautiful. It really is.
Yeah, and like just like real blood brothers. Sometimes life takes you apart, and
Hmm.
then when you meet up again, it's like you've never been apart.
Yeah.
You can say things to make each other laugh that are extreme or very personal, or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and no, I've got so much love for Jason. He's been such a constant in my life, and was a bit of an older brother as well, because I was very naive and had a very comfortable family setup.
Yeah.
Him not quite as straightforward as my family. So he had to move out on his own and look after himself and kind of make his way forward in life with no one really there to back him up.
Hmm.
So yeah, got nothing but respect and love for Jason. He's yeah, absolutely.
Well, if I skip forward a little bit, could you tell me what you were doing between Salem Orchid and the foundation of Akercocke in '97?
Wow, I can tell you exactly what I was doing. I was playing with every single band that I had a connection with. I was playing all kinds of music. I was playing in like pubs, because in the 90s there was more of a pub circuit in London.
Yeah.
So there were so many different projects, so many different bands, and I was playing with all of them. I mean, just off the top of my head, there was like Photographing Girls, Dole Q, Rogue MP,
Hmm.
Night Nurse with
Okay.
Matt Platt. There was the pop band that I was playing with as well, who was signed to Warner Brothers, and that was my first session work. And we were doing. I did a couple of UK tours. Did a schools tour with them miming as well. Then we did indie music with the same creative guy from the pop group, and he was receiving money to demo potential albums and things. So I was playing with absolutely everybody that I knew that had a band or had any connection, had a record deal. I was just, that was it. I was non-stop music, and
Are you able to tell
making.
me the name of the pop group that you played with?
Yeah, Orlando. It was a pop group that was signed to Warner Brothers, and it was two guys that were the band,
Yeah.
and they needed a touring live unit.
Yeah.
And I was doing sessions for a very good friend of mine who was managing lots of bands at the time and running a club in Camden. And so I'd literally turn up and he would say, "Oh, there's a teenage punk group that I'm looking after called the Pin-Ups," and he said. They're just absolutely brilliant. They said that they're the real deal, but the drummer can't actually play anything.
Hmm.
So I would just go in. He could pay me whatever. I would just go in and play very basic beats that sounded similar to what the other guy was trying to do,
Yeah.
and we would say no more about it, and they would go off and get a record deal and all the rest of it. And he just said, there's this pop group. He said, it's well within your capabilities, but it's playing kind of disco beats, four to the floor with clicks. I've got a UK tour coming up. Do you fancy it? And it's like, absolutely, I do,
Yeah.
100%. I mean, I learned to play lots of different styles of music, and I naively thought that that's what you needed to do to be a good drummer.
Yeah.
I thought you need to play with lots of different people and play lots of different kinds of music. The jazz, funk, punk, rock,
Yeah.
all of these things. And I thought this is all to my benefit. I'm becoming a better musician and a better drummer
Yeah.
from doing it. I don't think you really need to do that, but it just seemed like that was that was the idea, really. I just think that was, the way forward.
That was so interesting because I had noticed that either you had said that or Jason said that in the liner notes for the the special edition of Renaissance that came out, great big band biography in it, and yeah. So I think Jason had said about you what you've just told me about the idea that you thought that you should, that's how you became a better musician. And I was listening to your catalogue this week in preparation for speaking with you, and I was thinking about how that didn't necessarily translate into your playing, because you're very, very good at a certain amount of things. But I thought there are other things here that, reading between the lines, you didn't carry through to your playing. But obviously that's what you were doing in those kind of interim years as you were going off and you were doing punk and doing pop and doing all kinds of things. I mean, Jason said to me that he's found recently that he's had to come to accept that he doesn't feel like he could devote the time anymore to getting better at other things. He just wants to do guitar because that's his lane, so to speak, and he's good enough at that. But he was telling me about this rare instrument that he bought that he wrestled with it for 3 years and he was able to get like a note out of it or something like that. So yeah, that wasn't really a question, but
no, I feel that there is such an amazing album, or albums that Jason could create with so many different aspects of music and different movements of music, different feelings. We used to listen to Dead Can Dance when we were younger, and that was very much part of the kind of the color or the energy of when we were in Salem Orchard. Mm-hmm. Because one of the contrivances was for the band that we could only ever create lyrics and atmospheres that had that kind of feudal Britain kind of feel about it. Yeah. There were no motor vehicles. There's no electricity in the world that music exists.
Yeah,
and we would sometimes have some friends that had percussive instruments, like these drums that they would go traveling and bring them back, that were covered in deer skin and all these kind of things. And we used to get that 4-track recorder, and we would just make purely percussive kind of songs. Or there was a song that Jason and I worked on then. So probably like 1990 or whatever, across into Phoenicia, where we would mimic, the sound of the rowing of the slaves in the boat, but it would have this otherworldly wailing, like kind of Diamanda Gallas kind of unnerving sound that we would put in the background, where he would be, completely this kind of, I guess, possessed kind of demented wailing, and try and mimic those sounds of the kind of Egyptian flutes and things like that. We didn't have the technology at all, and we didn't have the necessarily the ability, but we had that kind of ambition that we wanted to create things that were unusual and different. Jason is an absolute master of that kind of stuff, and I think what you're saying is, if he had the time, I think more people would be aware of his musical talent and his ability, because I just think he's a fantastic musician. He's a great player. He has a great instinct for music and musical dynamics. His electronic music, again, using a different format, using a different approach to sound.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. 15-Minute Cop Show. I don't know if you've heard that, by Lorenzo Tractor.
No, not that one yet.
Well, you need to. Bro, you need to listen to that. It's absolute genius. It's one of the best things that you've ever heard.
Yeah.
But you just haven't heard it yet.
I did. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole after I was speaking to him. I was trying to figure out, various aliases and stuff that he'd used, but I could only get it. I could only get as far as what I could find, But the corridor thing that he told me to listen to was it's just brilliant. And you used a word there, demented. We laughed about that. The idea that I essentially, I labelled him as demented, because that energy to how he comports himself musically is unmistakable. It's irrepressible. It shines through in everything. Like even in Even in Axe, most, I guess you could call Renaissance kind of your most sensible record. There
Yeah.
are even moments of, moments of Demented Jason that still find their way onto that album, even though by that stage you've moved away from a lot of the thematic and lyrical imagery that permeated the earlier records. So, yeah. I mean, I was going to save this for like a logical endpoint for the chat, but we could maybe talk about it now. Mythology is repping you guys for bookings for live shows now. Does that suggest? I mean, can I? Because this happened after I was speaking to Jason. Does that suggest more live stuff is coming? That you're more open to it? Do you have plans? Is there anything? Obviously, I'm sure you can't discuss details, David. But what do you envisage for the future there?
I hope to keep Jason sort of suitably entertained, and hope then if we can maintain this kind of buoyancy of doing shows and being positive.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that he won't be against adding more trips abroad and nice things to do together. I've never really stopped going away for the weekend with chums to play heavy metal all over the world.
Yeah.
I've just never stopped, but I know he has. But that's because he's got different priorities. He's a different person, different requirements. But I do know that he does like going away with the chaps for a weekend and playing heavy metal. So let's hope that we can have a few more weekends that maintain his interest, and that hopefully there will be more in the future performances, and more Akercocke, really, like whatever shape or form that may be. It's just nice to have it around still.
Very much, yeah. It's very important to us as fans that something exists, even if it is a show a year. Or I mean, I asked him this question too. But how would you feel about you've been doing so when I saw you guys in Belfast, you did Renaissance front to back, and I didn't know that was coming until you were 3 songs in, and I was like, oh, brilliant! That's what's happening tonight. Really, really pleased about that. Love that record. And then you did the live album that came out a few years ago was basically the first album run through, and then you did Goat, and that was live streamed, and then you've been doing Corns, and recently, would you be interested in going for a full house, all 6, do Words and do Antichrist? Because I know you're maybe not so hot on Antichrist yourself.
No, see, I think I'm a bit different. I'm more. I think I'm more content with Antichrist on a lot of levels than I am with Words, to be honest.
Okay.
I feel that Words doesn't quite work for me, really. Not really.
Would you care to elaborate?
Yeah, I've talked about this before. We demoed 4 or 5 tracks from Words, and that would have been probably just Jason miking up the drums and being responsible for an overall mix of, I guess, like a tryout kind of thing, so it would have been the Werewolf song, I can't remember what it's called, and Verdelane,
yeah,
and a couple of others, and it was just a kind of a session just to see what they sound like in context. So it would have been not untold guitar takes and drum takes, just like a kind of like, let's just get these songs together, demo them. I've got the demos still, and it has an energy and a kind of punch that is completely missing on the album. And when we were tracking drums at Go with Mendes, we decided, after we'd got the sounds together and once we were happy with the sounds and the environment and everything, it was really late in the day that we decided to put everything to click, because we didn't do that with Corentin at all. And then we kind of decided, let's put everything to a click. And in the room, kind of at the time while we were committed to recording, I guess we had a week or something, I don't know, when we were doing drums. And I don't feel that the tempos are all at their fullest potential. So when you listen to some of the parts, although they may be more comfortable for guitars or something, they're not always necessarily comfortable for the band, I feel, personally. So they're like, for instance, Verdelay is quite a mid-tempo groove, but when you listen to the demo version, it's actually more of a thrash Slayer tempo, which has its own sense of urgency that's completely absent on the record. Now, there's nothing wrong with the actual released version of it. I like that. It's great. But it's different. And it wasn't deliberately different, if that makes any sense. It's just kind of like, now this is the version that we have that everyone knows, and this is the song. But that wasn't necessarily, I feel, where that came from. So I don't know if that makes any sense. But
it does,
also,
totally.
You're a drummer, right? So you have a relationship with the drums. When you listen to words next, whenever you have the time, if you commute or whatever, if you listen to the album and pay attention to the drums, and you'll find that the drums actually drop out, and that's usually the toms. Now, I'm not sure why that was. Neil Kernon is brilliant.
He is.
But there are a few times where there are fills, kind of like fours, snare tom, snare tom, snare tom. And the toms are, it's almost like you're just picking up the overspill from the snare mic that's picking up the toms. There are some different parts. Now that I've said that to you, pay attention the next time you listen to it. There are a few songs on there.
Yeah.
It sounds like they didn't get around to mixing the drums on that one. It was like they kind of ran out of time, because I wasn't present for the mix of words at all. So none of those sounds or anything went through me at all. I just literally just said to Jason, please make the drums sound fat, make them sound sick, whatever.
Yeah.
And Neil worked his magic and did what he did. But that wasn't necessarily how I was seeing it. And the same with Renaissance. Again, because you're a drummer, you'll be the person to say this to. I don't know if you ever heard the Voices album called Frightened that I played on.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that.
That's a completely live kit.
Yes, I was going to say it sounds it, yeah. Completely
live. That is it's a Tama Star Classic, I think. It was Steve who recorded the drums. It's his kit.
Yeah.
And I'd always wanted to have a kind of an experiment of that purely live, old school, more like Power Slave kind of drum sound, like literally just some mics in a room.
Yeah.
Let's get a bit of room ambience, a bit of the sound of the ring of the toms in a complementary way.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted for Renaissance. I wanted a live, natural sound. And we sent the drums to Neil, and they came back very processed. And again, I'm not sure that you've noticed this, but there's a sound of mics opening when we get to the octabands.
Yeah.
So the mics on the octabands are completely switched off.
Okay.
And when I go to the octabands, now you'll notice it. You can hear the second that I hit the first octaban, the ring of, we've put the mics on. And I don't know why that wasn't edited in that fashion. I don't know why it was left in such a clumsy fashion. You'll notice it now. Again, it's one of those things that I think only a drummer would notice, and only if you're looking out for it.
Yes.
But you'll hear it. I think there's maybe one time where I use the octabands in the entire album, and you don't get that that kind of feed that bleeds through at all. But most of it's there. And also, when you listen to the isolated drums, I think it's the 12-inch is distorted. The signal's distorted. So the tom has this kind of slight fuzzy edge to it.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was, maybe I'm completely wrong, but I don't think there was necessarily the best energy between our engineer and producer for that album. But it's certainly, for the record, that was not at all my idea to have a processed drum sound for Renaissance, and I wasn't really feeling that approach to it. I think it sounds okay. I don't hate the sound of it, but it's just not. If you listen to the Frightened sound, a more live sounding drum kit, that was more that I thought would be what I wanted for Renaissance.
Let's talk a little bit about Frightened with that in mind, David, because was Frightened a reaction then to Renaissance in that sense? Because I'll just echo what every other reviewer said when that album came out. It's very much in a different direction from London, in as much as that Human Forest and London are on a trajectory. It's not so much like that. It's more like that. But Frightened is something else, and it's really, really exciting for how different it sounds. And I think Peter's vulnerability comes through much more clearly, and there's much more of a palette of sounds on it and stuff. But I was wondering, I've always wondered about that record. Was it a reaction to anything, or was that just organically where you guys felt you were headed, or what's the score over that album?
For me personally, my take on that is that Frightened and the album afterwards sound different from the first two albums because we didn't write them together. The first two albums were completely band albums.
Yeah.
We worked out the concept loosely, the concept for London, and put together 90% of that material in the room, riffs and dynamics and musical movements, all of those things, and then thinking, okay, so now that we've got to the point, in the narrative, what do we need now, or what do we have that would be there? And Frightened was just, that was like the first step that we've gone into the tradition of from my experience, music now, how music's changed, was I just received some demos. These are the new songs.
Yeah.
This is how the drums go. It's like, what? And this is the reaction that I have to that, that I'll share with you, that I've said elsewhere as well. It's like, do you think that the guitarist wrote the drums for a forest, the forest whispers my name? No. I'm sorry. A guitarist did not write those drums. All right. Hammer Smash Face. Do you think the guitarist gave that drummer a demo and wrote those drums? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. And I'm not comparing that album to those classics, but what I'm saying is, somebody that can play the drums and has a certain amount of ability and a certain amount of imagination and creativity will create drums.
Yeah.
The guitarist in his bedroom, in front of his phone or whatever, can't play the drums. Unless you're Dave Suzuki.
So was Peter the sort of the band lead? Has Peter become the de facto band leader of Voices in a scenario like that? Was it Peter that was sending you these demos with drum tracks on them?
No, not at all. I think for those the album 3 and 4, Sam would write material and Pete would write material. I guess like in an echo of Akercocke, really, in the end of Ak, really.
Yeah.
Just people. This is just how music has developed. People just think they, this is the idea. This is how it goes. This is how it should be. But really, music's a collaborative team
Yeah.
effort, like writing music, composing, and having musicians that can play their instruments. That's kind of like, that's the point for me. I don't really respond particularly well to being given demos. I mean, at least with Antichrist Imperium,
Yeah.
because that's obviously in Australia, he would send me 2 demos. He would say, "This is all of the riffs for the song in order with a click. I'll send you another version with some programmed drums that is probably just blasting all the way through anyway.
Yeah.
And it's up to you. Do what you want. So I think it would be very occasionally, usually with the Sam Bean song, he would be, some strange, impossible riffs, and I would have to refer to the drum version because I just don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
A couple of riffs, and you just think, I'm guessing that's blasting, but like I don't know. So
you must have been offered some considerable creative input into what you did with those drum tracks, David, because you're playing on Frightened in particular is very, uniquely and recognizably you. And then you've also got moments on both of those records where you kind of introduce elements of drum soloing into some of those songs. Was that a reaction to being given parts and just thinking, no, I'm going to play something that is not written here in the middle of this?
No, I don't. The only drum solo that was sort of contrived was the one that's on London.
I might have got them mixed up then. Yeah.
There was a song called Megan.
Yes.
And part of the kind of breakdown of the last musical movement was, I just thought it would be funny, just to go into a bit of a free for all, and that's really the only time I've ever really done anything like that.
Which of those groups are still active?
I don't think Antichrist Imperium will be active. I mean, a couple of years ago, I messaged and said, any chance we could do anything soon? And Matt's just so busy. He's got his projects that he's busy with. So I totally get it. He's just kind of in an Australian vortex of heavy metal. Voices kind of ran out of steam, and the last album that we did, although I like it, it's just I didn't feel it had anything to do with me. It was literally just a set of demos, and the drums go a bit like this, and then we kind of got to the studio, and I just played what we had, like we kind of track it, and then maybe Sam would say, maybe put a few more fills in, make it a little bit more ugly or whatever, and it's like, okay, let's do that again. And that was kind of it. So there wasn't really any kind of connection to the music, because the music had nothing to do with me.
If I could say this with the utmost respect, because I always like listening to you guys play, but I did feel that Trauma Bond had the least, pardon the pun, it had the least of amount of voice to it. The first 3 albums all have a voice, but and it's a great album, but running out of steam is a very succinct way of putting it.
Nice sounding album.
It does sound great. Yeah, it sounds it sounds fucking killer. It's really punchy. But are you still playing with Nathrakh?
Yes,
yes,
absolutely. Got Varkan is coming up in a couple of weeks. So yeah, I mean that's kind of where my head is mainly at. We get together and rehearse. Dr. Dave tells us the songs that he wants to play. We try and express the original intention of the song. I don't think we get too involved in listening to other live versions that other people have done. I think you listen to the original track and try and channel a bit of that kind of Mick power into it as well, but also try and give it the kind of Bedfont Blast feel as well. My old drum tech from AC, when he was at Download, he said, it's definitely Anaal Nathrakh. He said, but I could definitely tell you were playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just took that as a massive, massive compliment. So
I have two different directions I want to go in here. I'm going to have to pick one. Right, first one we'll go with Can you talk a little bit about Bedfont musical parlance, or is that a closely guarded secret?
That's just it was such a in the 90s we had so many musicians going to our studio, and Saturday night for probably about a year we just have these musicians that were local would just turn up like with drugs and drink and whatever, and we would just improvise all night.
Yeah.
It was just ridiculous, and it's such a talented sort of unusual kind of
Little
succession of
society.
musicians that
Yeah.
would come in, and we would just play, jam, improvise, sometimes do some covers, whatever, and uh, Bedfont became the central hub of music, and of course then it became heavy metal, of course,
Yeah.
because we had the studio there, so we could play every day if we wanted to.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, the other direction I was going to go there was in relation to you being told that it sounded like you were playing. I wanted to talk to you about your time in My Dying Bride.
Yeah,
How long did you play with the Bride for? Were you there for a couple of years?
yeah, easily two, possibly three.
Because when we first started speaking, it was not long after I think I'd made contact with Rick, the first
Yes,
big hero of mine,
yes.
and a cool dude, and we're still talking. And I love Rick to pieces. But the only time I ever saw MDB live, you were playing for them. To be honest with you, I kind of went to see you because I'd been a fan of Act for years and wanted to see you play the drums. And I thought that you did the best job post Rick of playing drums in My Dying Bride, because you
I'll
played,
take that.
yeah, you played his parts. And again, me and Rick talked about this. You played his parts, I thought, with the most sort of due respect to those parts. And he said that he never felt like anyone should have to play his parts the way they were played, because then you're into the realm of stripping a drummer of their identity. We all play differently. We all think about things differently. But I thought, not with that guy though. That guy, nobody played like that guy. Nobody plays like that guy today. I've never seen a guy who had such an original voice when it came to creating drum parts that doesn't seem to have influenced a slew of imitators. But you got it, David. You really got it. Like what was it? What was it like playing for My Dying Bride? And did you feel any responsibility to honor those songs? You would have been playing obviously Sean's and Dan's and Bill's and John's songs as well. But yeah, what was it like for you?
I will admit, in the nicest way possible, for all of the other guys that occupied the stall. There was only ever Rick, to be honest, really. He had such a connection to the music, and he's so integral to the music
Yeah.
that, when we would play some of the later material, it did sound as though this was, it couldn't have existed without him.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like his shadow remains over the drum throne of that band.
Yeah.
They're all very capable, very good chaps playing the drums for MDB, but Rick was just in a different class. His angriness on the God Is Alone 7-inch,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely fantastic. I was so impressed with that, because I heard that just a couple of years after it was released, but I received the flyers for that when it came out,
Yeah.
because I was a tape trader.
Okay.
So when we were at Salem Orchid, we would send out demos and receive demos and whatever, but there would always be a handful of flyers, and MDB were always coming around at that time, and it was always God Is Alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't send to them directly or anything like that, but I did receive a tape that had the single on it,
Mm-hmm.
and I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. I thought this was it was the kind of music that I was absolutely in tune with at that time,
Mm-hmm.
because we were into the language of like death metal, but everyone had their own unique take on it.
Yeah.
Very much in the way that with thrash, You know, we had all these thrash metal bands in the 80s, and no one really sounded the same. You know, Slayer didn't sound like Obituary,
Yeah.
who didn't sound like Holy Moses, who didn't sound like Atrophy. Everyone had their own thing,
Yeah.
and it was like, this is death, but they've got their own swing, and you know, that really dirty groove, the where Rick's doing the ride, when it kind of when they stop and he just counts and they come in with that really ugly riff that swings,
Yeah.
and then he kind of goes into the double kick, the 16s, and he's doing the like the choke, cymbal chokes, but it's keeping the double kicks going, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that is just pure class, you know. So then I just really thought, you know, MDB are obviously an excellent band, and they're really part of the metal scene that is connecting with me at that time.
Yeah.
The Cradle demo came over, and we thought it was very silly. These kind of preset keyboard sounds, you know, like the kind of
This would be Total Fucking Darkness, would it?
John Pritchard wrote
Ah.
to me. I don't know what demo that was, because we kind of thought it just didn't work. It's just a bit silly. It's like, you know, okay, these kind of frothy, weird DX7 keyboards, like maybe that makes sense to someone, but like there's nothing nasty about that to me at all. It just kind of lost me. Anyway, so years later, I got the opportunity to listen to the first MDB album, and it kind of didn't work for me when I first heard it.
Yeah.
I listened through to like side A or whatever on vinyl, and I just kind of thought, they've made a death metal album without any of the fast parts. It's almost like they've exclusively taken everything that's not fast and kind of just put it together. I thought, but the fast bits are the best bits. Why would you do that?
Yeah, and the fast bits in a juxtaposition with the slow bits are what make each of those bits work so
But
well, you know?
having 8 bars of a skank on vast choirs that didn't count. That's like,
No.
that's, you know, that's, I can't even get a full erection at that point. It's like, no, I need more than that.
Yeah.
So it's like, it just kind of went to one side, you know. It was like, I don't know, like, why would you do that to me?
Yeah.
Why, you know, that was kind of where we were used to, you know, Morbid Angel had introduced blasting, but for a couple of bars, you know. So we can take a riff and have eight bars of this riff, blast for 4, and then skank for 4. You know, MDB were just saying, let's not blast. You know, we might skank for 2, just leave it. I didn't understand that at all. So it was, my point being, it was years until I heard anything again from the band. And a friend of mine, Matt Platt, who I used to play with, who was in Interlock and some other metal bands. Oh, Primitive Graven Image as well. He's one of his most recent bands. He lent me the CD of Angel in the Dark River. And as soon as I put on, you know, I just thought, this is just fantastic, you know, because again, Rick starting up with the halftime pattern with the toms, and then just kind of going into that that swing. And if you watch that footage of him playing in, is it Poland or something?
It is. It's in Krakow, I think.
Yeah, the famous footage. He's kind of closing up the hats as well. You know, he's kind of like, he's not swinging in a heavy metal kind of fashion, you know. He's kind of bringing that back, and, you know, playing along with those beats and with the interplay in a slightly different kind of fashion, you know.
Yeah.
And when I listened through to that album all the way through, I was just hooked. I just thought, this is just absolutely brilliant. It didn't feel conspicuous to not have any fast riffs. It felt like these songs were so well presented and so well executed that I didn't even notice that there wasn't anything fast or vicious or whatever. I just thought, this is just absolutely brilliant. Great sounding record. great performances, and then immediately listened to Turn Loose the Swans. And of course, My River, Your River, Your River. Yeah, yeah. I just thought that was just a real piece of work. And Rick is Rick is never sort of better than that song, And it was an absolute privilege when we were playing the MDB different live sets, and then one day they said, "Oh yeah, learn My River, Your River, whatever the fuck." And I just thought, "Oh, fantastic! That's it. I'm so pleased." But one of the things I did say to Andy and Aaron at the time was, I really, really want to play Gods of the Sun. Mm-hmm. Please, can we put that in the set? Because in '97, when, as we talked about earlier, I was playing with every single group that I could, playing all kinds of different music. The guy that was my manager at the time, well, not my manager, but the guy that was the music manager I was working for a lot, he said to me, My Dying Bride are looking for a drummer. I said, well, I know MDB, not personally, but I know them. And he said, well, let me know if you're thinking about auditioning or whatever, and I, see if that's a thing. If I need to throw some money at someone to get you a gig or whatever. And I wasn't sure. I really wasn't sure, because in '97, Akercocke existed.
Yeah.
So we were playing a lot and in our own dimension of evil. So I wasn't too sure that I really wanted to just kind of jump ship and do that.
Yeah.
But I still had it in the back of my mind that, well, I don't know, So I listened to their latest album, which was Gods of the Sun.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that first song, that's just pure gold. And of course, Rick, redoubtable Rick. I saw these absolutely fantastic drums, and I enjoyed, learning that song just because.
Mm-hmm.
And how weird that just a few years later, I was in their rehearsal room with them behind the kit and saying, come on, guys, just do me one favor. Please, can we play Gods of the Sun at some point? And then playing it with them, that was amazing. I was really, really happy to have had that experience.
He told me recently about the idea that he had back, I think it must have been the '97 tour, where they were playing, Symphonera Infernus, and that they play basically like the side A of that song, and the bit where it stops and he goes into the cymbal chokes, and then it segs straight into the start of like Gods of the Sun, so it kind of becomes this like half of one song and then all of another song medley. But like, it's just such a brilliant idea, and he sent me a clip of them playing it somewhere, I think in Europe in '97, and the guitar tone, even filmed from the back of the small venue with what would have been a camcorder, the guitar tone is insane, but the flow of it is so brilliant, and it's a typical drummer's idea, but that song's brilliant. That's the only one that I can remember when I was watching you playing. I was like, he's changed one part, and the fact the fact that I've noticed that he's changed one part, because I've been fucking scrutinizing you all night and thinking, he's not changed any other parts. This is brilliant. This is what we want,
What did I change?
There's a really fast tom roll that he does, and you just went cha like that with the china and with the snare. I don't know if there's any evidence of this online, but you did it in Belfast, and so every time that part came, but I thought, it's tasteful. I like it. It was very good. So it's not a criticism.
I definitely was trying to channel my inner Rick when I was playing those songs. I mean, there's so much gold that that just heightens the experience of playing those songs. It's because the drums are so excellent.
They are truly excellent parts, and Rick hadn't done really much. I mean, he didn't do a pilot press when he was in My Dying Bride, and hadn't been heard from in a very, very long time, and there was rumours about his health and everything in print. I remember back in Kerrang, and then the early days of the internet and the old My Dying Bride boards and everything, and I just thought, I'd love to talk to this guy, and see, when I did, I convinced him to do it, and the clip went up, the outpouring of love in the comments, and everybody's saying similar things to what you've just said. You know, I don't think he ever realized how much of an impact that he had on people. A completely singular player. Were you drafted in, David, as a touring guy only? Was there any? I mean, were you a member of the band? Was there any ever talk of writing, recording?
No. Hamish approached me because I'd bumped into him, or maybe Ack had bumped into him. I think maybe we were doing like Hellfest or something, and MDB were playing and Ack were playing. And Hamish was, because he's such a lovely guy, you know, his personality and his kind of charisma and whatever, you know, he just kind of bowled up to us and said, "Oh, I love Akercocke, you know, you guys, just crazy, fantastic. I love it. You know, I hope you can stick around and we can have a drink and, you know, whatever." And he was just one of those characters that you would kind of see, much in the way that I used to bump into Mick when he used to play sessions, Anaal Nathrakh Mick, when I was doing, I think maybe even with MDB, you know, you'd be backstage in some German festival or whatever, and Mick would be on his own, and Hamish would always be at the bar getting drunk, you know, with whoever. Bit of a kind of metal sort of party, you know, stalwart, whatever. Anyway, so Hamish just got in touch with me and just said our drummer's had an accident. I think sprained his wrist and broken his ankle or something. And he said, "We've got, you know, a whole summer of gigs. I suppose you'd be interested in doing anything." And you know, just for the fact that he asked, you know, I was interested. And I said, "Well, could you just get the set to me so I can listen through to the set, so then I can tell you if I can play it?"
Yeah.
Because I hadn't heard them for a while. You know, I didn't want to commit to something that when I heard it, I thought, "Oh, Jesus, there's no way I can pull this off." So he sent me a set, and I thought, yeah, this is cool. I can do this. I could quite happily be involved in this. Of course, being London based, so Saturday morning I would just get up as though I was going to work and just drive to Bradford to their rehearsal space. I don't know, 3 or 4 hours or whatever it is to drive, and go up and play with those guys for a couple of hours and then just drive back. You know, that was my kind of Saturday.
Yeah.
And I guess no one ever really said, "It's great, we really like it." I mean, apart from Hamish, because he definitely would have done that, because he's just such an agreeable, lovely guy. But and it was never mentioned, "Did you want to be our drummer?"
Yeah.
Yeah, no one ever addressed that with me at all. I did think, you know, would I be relocating to Bradford or whatever, or Halifax, I think, where a couple of them are, like, you know, would that be a thing? But I played with them all through that summer, and I think into the next year with some shows. And then an EP turned up.
Oh, what was this? Would have been the Bargest of Whitby, would it have at that time?
Was.
About
That's
the big scary dog, yeah.
And that was with some other guy playing the drums, and I just thought, "Oh, okay, well that told me."
So that's how you found out.
I wouldn't, as I said, no one ever suggested to me that they might want me to be in the band. It was never addressed with me. No one ever sort of suggested it or anything. But I would have loved to have recorded with them.
You were a good fit.
I definitely thought something like that EP or whatever would have been a nice way for them to see, do we like working with this guy? You know, does he work under pressure? You know, what's the drill? But it just was never mentioned to me. And then the other album came out, Kneel Till Doomsday and whatever.
Yes, Map of All Our Failures.
Yeah, again, that was, "Oh, our new album's coming out." Oh, okay. There are a couple of songs we want you to learn on it. Oh, okay, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're okay. They did not set me alight. I thought they were okay. You know, it sounded like they had kind of got into a rhythm of sort of creativity where they weren't really happy or comfortable trying to progress their sound or their ambition. Whereas I always saw MDB as such an ambitious, progressive, unique band. Turn Loose the Swans was an album that no one else could write.
Yeah.
Absolutely, completely unique. And yet, when you listen to a lot of their other albums, it's just kind of very comfortable in like a cozy jumper and slippers that you kind of keep putting on that maybe you should throw away and get some new ones, but you're comfortable with, it's okay. These will do me for another winter or whatever. And that I'm not saying that in a sort of overall negative way or whatever. I think they're a terrific band, always have been. But objectively, they were so ambitious and progressive and great for such a long time that it seems unusual that the wheels fell off somewhere. And
I think so, yeah. And I think maybe they fall into that Cradle of Filth category of, a lot of guys kind of coming and going, and even sometimes coming back. But the creative partnerships, I mean, we have to highlight Calvin, Robert Shaw, and Martin Powell, Adrian Jackson. All those guys contributed enormously to the early stuff. I think with the period that you're talking about there, David, I think was maybe around about the time that Hamish started to check out, because he wrote he took kind of the lead on that 27-minute song, the Bargist track, and it's disgustingly heavy. It's really, really good, and he was working something out on that. And then I think by the time that subsequent album came out, I think he was gone by the time maybe even that they were touring for that, if I'm not mistaken. So it comes down to maybe lack of maybe creative partnership and frustrations, and who knows, who knows. But I would have loved to have heard something, from you and them.
It would have been part of the experience would have been to actually have some, I wouldn't say like creative input, but I would have liked the drums to have been for me to compose in the band. I would have liked to have been in a room with Hamish and him play, and then for me to play with him and for us to respond. That's what music is about for me. That's about how you create the energy and the dynamic. That's what it's. Hamish is such a talented guy. He's such a good guitarist, and he's very open and very. He's kind of like a sociable player as well. He's a team player, is what he is. Whereas, from my experience, Andy is less so. Andy was more like, this is the song, this is how it goes, this is how we play it. When we finish playing it, we stop playing until we play the next song. Whereas I guess Hamish would be more inclined to play the opening riff to Lunatic of God's Creation, and we'll just fiddle around with that for a couple of bars just because.
I've said this a bunch of times, but I got the feeling when I was at that gig that Hamish was the biggest My Dying Bride fan in the room. He projected such brilliant energy on stage, He should
have been left to kind of look at the overall MDB experience, and to really be allowed to say, where the creativity and the madness of the music, where do you think it was going? Where do you think is the logical progression? Because he is like he was, I should say, he was like the ultimate MDB fan and personality. But I guess that's just because he openly loved it so much, loved playing it, and relished the experience, and wanted other people to feed off of that energy as well, because that's what is giving life to the music. And I guess in those days he would have been the first person to have said to me, play it like Rick. Like give it some Rick. Whatever it is you're doing, it could always do with more Rick, you know.
Yeah.
And I completely agreed, you know.
I mean, he was kind of, I think he was like the Jason Newsted of My Dying Bride in that sense, that he was sort of a conduit for the fans to what's happening on stage and out the back as well. How you fixed for time, David? Do you need to get away?
So it is 11:15, is it? Should we do until 11? Is that okay?
Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
No, I really appreciate that. Uh, the opening of Coranson is sampled from an episode of Hammer House of Horror. Whose idea was that?
Probably mine. I don't remember.
Have you seen it? Have you seen any other episodes of that series?
I've seen all of them numerous times.
All right. Well, here we go. Here's my question.
Okay.
Would you ever consider, even as a personal favour to me, opening an album with and writing an album about that episode where Denham Elliott can't stop waking up?
Right. I'm going to allow you to enter the world of Akercocke in 2004. My idea for our next kind of music video project, not necessarily something that would be in the sense that Leviathan was very much, you know, on Scuzz TV, Kerrang TV, whatever. Not necessarily in that context, but if we could make it work for that as well, I was definitely interested in it. What I wanted to do, and I discussed with the band, but no one else responded to this whatsoever, was I wanted to do a video that was the 4 members of the band would be in a small representation of 4 different episodes of Hammer House of Horror. So Children of the Full Moon probably would be Jason, because it's such an amazing episode, and he could be Mr. Ardoy in some kind of context, because what's the guy, Christopher Cazenove, has the BMW that he's kind of driving around, and he's got Rollnecks, you know, these kind of mustard Rollnecks. That's a bit of Jason,
okay,
because he was driving around in a BMW at the time and probably had quite a few mustard Rollnecks. So he could possibly, you know, be that main character in the video. I wanted to be Denham Elliott.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I want to do the constantly waking up from the dream sequence. That's going to be me. I'm not sure what we wanted to do for Pete and Paul and for those other episodes, but you know, when I was so excited about that as an idea, because going back to level 42, they have a video that is kind of divided into the different members of the band having a scenario with this woman, and it's like they're all having this interplay with the same woman and they don't know it. So it's like the small chapters, you know, of the song. And I thought that's exactly what we could do. We could get one song and then do our homage to Hammer.
Yeah.
We could have those different episodes. And everyone was kind of like, yeah, it's a good idea. Should we practice now or whatever? And
you were humoured.
I just had so many different ideas that I thought had legs, but if no one else is behind it, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, the one that left the biggest impression on me was the doppelganger one, and you know, the reveal that the you can tell them by their teeth. You know, they've got these awful teeth, but that's a very indelible horror image for me. I don't remember Hammer House of Horror being particularly scary. Otherwise, I mean, the house that bled to death was rubbish, like, wasn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but when did you see it? When did you watch that?
For a point, yes, I would have been an adult at the time, like, so.
You see, I actually watched those episodes when they were screened in 1980, when I was like 8 years old or whatever. And Children of the Full Moon has the scene. I don't know how familiar you are with the narrative, but there's a scene where Christopher Cazenove pulls back the curtains to sort of, you know, assuage his wife. It's like, everything's fine, darling. Everything's absolutely fine. There's nothing here at all. It's perfectly safe.
Yeah.
Opens the curtains and there's a werewolf at the window.
Yeah.
As an 8-year-old, I shat myself. I was just absolutely terrified.
Yeah.
Now, if you watch that episode back, that's got to be the most unconvincing werewolf mask that's ever existed.
Yeah.
It's obscene. It's ridiculous. but that filled me with terror when I was a child. And also the episode that had the maggots crawling over the small boy's dinner. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yes, I do.
The next morning when I was eating my, cornflakes, whatever, I was imagining that there were insects and maggots and things in my breakfast. It haunted me. It really did.
You mentioned Hergé earlier. Do you remember the Tintin? It was a cartoon of Tintin, and there was a scene in one of those where like an Incan, it's like mummy basically, it climbs into a room and steals like an orb, and then climbs out again and looks back at the person that's in the room just as like the lightning strikes in the background. That's the most scared I can remember being as a child was in an episode of Tintin. That thing, what was that called? Children of the Sun. Is that what it's called?
It might be, actually. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, but I mean, you can get that. Obviously, the panel is in the comic as well, so you could find that online. But yeah, right. No, that's amazing, because that was supposed to be a stupid question, and you were like, "Well, actually, Paul, you're kind of right." So yeah, I like it when that happens.
I like to think there's a parallel universe where that video was actually made.
What about I have a couple of other silly ones here. We'll get these through before we wrap up. Death Ritual. From Every Tongue Shall Praise Satan. Was that designed like a sequel to Footsteps Resound from Antichrist? There's some musical DNA shared in there. And Footsteps Resound obviously being the last metal track on Antichrist.
Yeah.
Would you say there's any tangible link there?
Only so much as in that material and Death Ritual in particular, and other material that was on the demo as well, was material that Matt and I worked at the Goat of Mendy studios when no one else would turn up for rehearsal.
Yeah.
So we were kind of in that stage of Akercocke where you would arrange the certain nights when we would be practicing, and people would kind of have excuses or not be able to attend, and different things. So it would always be Matt and myself, and we just carried on writing. We didn't ever stop. Thinking that we'll just write the next album. It would just be the two of us, because Jason kind of had his own things going on, had riffs and things, and certain musical movements that were constants that we would jam through. Some of those ended up on Renaissance, but Death Ritual and that template.
Yeah,
that's literally material that we were jamming to be Akercocke that then became Antichrist Imperium.
Was any of the stuff that ended up on Voices also repurposed from Axe Sessions, or was that its own thing? No, yeah, it's all just
Voices. Pete Benjamin was playing guitar, Sam was playing guitar, so that they didn't have any creative connection with Akercocke at all.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm gonna close things off with some quick fire questions again. Trying to figure out how this whole doing podcasting works, but people seem to like it. So, but before we get to that, would you, if you don't mind, could you tell me the story that you told me before I stupidly forgot to press the record button earlier about your current profession and the link with another member of Akercocke?
Right. Yes.
Sorry, I'm not to give you direction, but it was brilliant, David, and I couldn't believe it whenever you were telling me that. And then I looked down and I was like, you might have even heard the little thing pop on recording in process, but I just missed the whole thing. But it's just the icing on the cake,
Okay. I mean, so Matt and myself both working for funeral directors in London, and he decided to go into the embalming aspects of caring for dead people, whereas I didn't want to get my hands too dirty, really. So I was a bit more content to kind of just wear a top hat and drink tea and care for bereaved people in that sort of office environment, rather. Cemeteries are a bit more my thing rather than embalming rooms, mortuaries. So at the time of Antichrist Imperium, it's official, and no one can ever contest this, that we were the ultimate death metal band, because Matt was embalming deceased and I was burying deceased every day that we recorded and composed and recorded all of the Antichrist Imperium albums. So there isn't another death metal band that can, knock us off the crowning position of being the ultimate death band. So
Yeah,
there you have it.
I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for that. Right, let's get through some of these silly ones. As little or as much detail as you like. Best Napalm Death album.
Oh, it would be the Morrisound album.
Oh, Harmony Corruption.
Harmony Corruption. Yeah, I love Morrisound Studios.
Same.
Yeah, it's not fashionable, it's not cool, but Morrisound, that sound of death,
yeah,
that era, that's gold to me. I'm not a big devotee of Napalm. I think they're nice enough guys.
yeah.
Anaal Nathrakh know them, so we
Yeah.
bump into them frequently around the world, and they're good guys, but I must admit, it's that Harmony Corruption stuff that I know.
Yeah.
Those skank beats, those blast beats from Mickey Harris.
From Mickey, yeah. Well, fashionable or not, it looks like I'm going to have Scott Burns on the show sometime this year, which is
Amazing.
But that might not make this broadcast until it's formal. But best Prodigy single.
Ooh, Smack My Bitch Up.
Barker said the same thing. Yeah. Well, he gave me I think he gave me one for every album, and I was like, yeah, I thought you would do that, Nick. But yeah, that's a good choice. What else have I got on my list here? Who's the best drummer in Suffocation?
Oh, if I were in the room, I probably would punch you in the face.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Smith
it is.
or go home.
It's Smith or go home. Yeah. It's just Dave is so good on that one EP. Despise the Sun, and it's.
But I've been here before many times. It's the on the beat blast
or nothing. Yeah.
That's just playing everything at the same time. I mean, there's nothing more brutal than snare, kick, hats, everything just punching you relentlessly in the face. And Despise the Sun's great, but then they started to kind of sound like this is what death metal sounds like. Whereas, what's the album? Lost the plot.
Right, hang on. What have we got? We've got the Effigy of the Forgotten.
Effigy of the Forgotten.
Yeah,
I mean that's so uniquely Suffocation. It's you just.
If anyone's confident enough to answer that question, either Doug Bone or Coloros or Eric Marotti, and I don't know who's playing for them currently, I'd be willing to listen to them, but the correct answer is Smitty, 100%.
Mike Smith is so underestimated,
Very, very much so, yeah. And a big influence on you, David, I can tell as well. Like,
oh my God, it's the idea of when we were trying to create our own identity as a band, and listening to other bands. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have contact with these people. So you listen to the music and you think it sounds like he's just hitting everything at the same time really fast. That can't possibly work.
Yeah.
And yet, when you put everything together, it does work. And it's great to have those off the beat blasts, like Despise the Sun and whatever. But everyone was doing that. That's kind of like just the standard. I don't think there's anything more ugly, caveman, knuckle dragging, brutal, mindless death metal, and just twatting everything at the same time as fast as you can.
Yeah.
It's just like have this and fuck off.
Yeah.
Everything else is just kind of like, yeah, it's cool. But
have you seen that video of him playing in the studio, and then he gives an interview afterwards? But the piece that he's playing, it's not like a Suffocation song, so I think they wrote it just for this footage. But that song sounds like, I don't know what's the way to put it, that it owes him money. It's just such groove in it, but he kicks the shit out of the song itself. Watch it if you haven't seen it. I'll get it linked down below for people.
Yeah,
but
I've seen lots of his stuff when he's in studios performing. He's definitely one of those people that you need to watch.
Yeah.
play the drums. It's how you get from here to there and around. It's the movement. This is one of the essentials of
Yes.
how you communicate as a drummer.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do it? How do you move around the kit? How are the shapes that where are these different sounds positioned? And he's the kind of person that you should pay attention to how these people perform and how they do this. Someone else that I need to big up as well is Steve Asheim, because no one ever talks about that guy.
They don't. Yeah.
He is the master. He is so relentless. This guy is not compromising on any level. It's the famous straight back blast. He's got such a straight back when he plays, and he's kind of hunches down, and he's got the grimace of evil, and he's there, but it's all power. He's not kind of there's no subtlety. It's not technique.
Yeah.
He's just hitting everything very hard, very quickly. I mean, why? I don't want to bring someone else into the arena in a negative context, but Pete Sandoval, brilliant drummer.
Yeah.
Why aren't people ever discussing Steve Asheim? It seems ludicrous to me that he's not one of the people that is such a point of reference in extreme drumming. I mean, this guy is he's given us relentlessly, so many albums.
It's all here. I'm going to give you my favorite, right? I'm really bad with remembering song names, but there's a thing that he does, right? It's somewhere on Once Upon the Cross. Let me see. Brilliant. Song titles aren't on the back. Thank you, Roadrunner. Is this little thing he does where it goes...
That's Legion.
Yeah, that's not in Legion, is it?
Yeah.
Oh man, I've shown myself up. But it's brilliant. It's just this weird little odd... Genius. Yeah, no. He's very, very, very good. Spectacular answer. This one, you're the first person I've asked this to, and there may not be an answer to this. What was the best Ken Reid strip?
Ken Reid, I don't know. I'm not familiar with Ken Reid.
Yeah, no, you got to check it out. Ken Reid did Frankie Stein and Faceache and The Nerves and a bunch of that old stuff. But it really, as laugh out loud funny as any TV or movie or audio commentary, comedy. But right, that brings us to the final question, and the one that I regret not asking Jason the most. And I'll get him again sometime. Exorcist 1 or Exorcist 3?
It's got to be the original.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't think I've had a 3 yet.
No.
I could make a case for 3. I'm not going to, but I think it has its fans amongst us.
I think because my relationship with the Exorcist movie was I read the book and then watched the movie sort of very quickly afterwards. So although the movie didn't have the sort of emotional depth of the book, because I had just read it, it's kind of integral to it on that level when I had my sort of Exorcist experience. Yeah. But really, it's the prologue, the scenes in Iran or whatever, where Pazuzu is the essence of Pazuzu is present and foreboding. And I'll tell you the song on words that is an atmospheric song. And that was essentially Jason and I in a room trying to reproduce that energy of the jackals, I think, are in the background, and they're kind of tearing apart some small animal or something.
It's just before your... It's the track just before that. Before that. Again, I'm bad with names, but yeah.
But we're channeling the Pazuzu energy in that song. That's where that's coming from, because it has the Egyptian flute, and I think it was actually an instrument that Jason got on his travels. Some kind of African.
I think he told me about that. I think it might be Abaddon dying in the sun, if I'm not wrong.
That's exactly what it is.
Excellent trivia, David. Really appreciate that. I'm going to ask you something. I don't know if Jason mentioned to you, one of the things that I wanted to propose was, if you fancied getting together sometime, the two of you, to do a commentary track for one of your albums, like you used to get on DVDs.
Definitely.
Because I don't know if you've seen, I've done one with Barker for Vampire. It went up this week. And the idea is you
Wow.
stick it up on YouTube without the audio, so you don't get hit by earache or Peaceville or whoever for copyright strikes. And then you tell someone, start listening now, and I'll sync it up with chapter points and everything. So I've been thinking about it for months, but finally got it recorded last weekend, went up this weekend, and the reaction's been brilliant because everyone's like, oh my God, we get to listen to the guy that wrote these parts talk you through the
Amazing.
parts. Yeah. And I thought it was a good idea, and I thought maybe you guys might be interested in doing fucking whatever. The obvious choices would be Goat or Corns, and I suppose because those are the pillar releases.
Yeah,
But do you think that's something you might be up for?
definitely.
You're
100%.
you're the man. Yeah, we'll get it arranged for some time then.
Vampire's the one as well.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
I mean, forget about it. The sound of the drums. I mean, it's a great sounding album in general, but the drums are just so crisp
Yeah,
and just so amazing. And his playing on that is so exceptional.
it is
Um,
the biggest leap between two records I think that I can think of for any player is Nick on Principle and Nick on Vampire. Maybe another analog would be Raymond Herrera on Soul of New Machine to Demanufacture. I think he goes from one
I don't know who that
place.
is.
Fear Factory.
Oh, crumbs. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not my bag. It's
No,
not my bag.
that's okay. Well, we'll stick with the Nick thing. But yeah, I think Nick's progression from those two records is like, this guy's been putting in the fucking time. Like, do you know what I mean? But
But Paul Ryan said to me that he used to get performance anxiety in the studio, and to me, listening to Vampire, you think this is a guy that's really comfortable in the studio. Maybe
yeah.
he gets a bit of anxiety playing live, but in the studio, this guy is all over it. And yet, Paul Ryan said, he's a bit nervous sometimes when it came to okay, we're recording, be brilliant, you
Yeah.
know. But I don't think you'd ever know it because the performance on that album.
It's spectacular, and to hear him talk me through it, and obviously talk anyone else who's listening through it in real time with, and it took this from Neil Peart, and this was from Hoagland, and we tightened this up from the version that was on the previous album, and I'm not happy with the way the toms sound here, and just it's. I just thought I always wanted something like that to exist, and I'm a big fan of the DVD commentaries and listening to directors, like William Friedkin talking shit about everybody that worked on The Exorcist other than him for 2 hours and saying the most insane things. It's art on its own merits, and I thought, why does this not exist for music? And he agreed to be a guinea pig for me. So Jason's already said he's up for it. So this is it. I've roped you in.
I'm not even sure that. I mean. We could definitely try to do it together and see. No, I think you're right. I think it probably would be. I think it would be funnier if we did it together.
Yeah, I think. Well, if it works and you enjoy it, you could do as many as you want. I think the internet should be full of these things, David. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, if you enjoy it, it works. And fuck it, if you want to do voices or something else sometime that Jason isn't involved in, and we can just the drum nerds talk shop is a perfectly valid approach too. But yeah, I appreciate that. I'm gonna hold you to that as soon as we can make something worth. But listen, I've taken six extra minutes of your time, which I do apologize for. But it's been an absolute blast talking to you, and thanks for making the time. I was in Spain when I got your reply saying you were up for it, and I literally just stood up and went, David Gray's got back to me. And Deborah said, who's that? And I went, I'll sit down and tell you. But yeah.
It's not the guy that sang that song that you saw on TV.
Don't oh, man. You can't believe you addressed the elephant in the room. Yeah.
Yeah, we had to.
You're the better David Gray, though. So
I appreciate that.
It's absolutely true. But I'll let you go and enjoy what remains of your Sunday evening, and I'll let you know when it's up. And all that remains is to thank you very much, David. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
No, it's great to meet you, and thank you very much for including me. And we should do something again soon.
Absolutely, yeah. Soon sounds good. All right, see you, man.
Okay, buddy.
Have a good night.
Nice to meet you.
And you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.